massive and infinite blessings to whomever this makes it to. For I really hope I can touch on some people who are at rock bottom. And having been at rock bottom, I can I can empathize in that it's certainly not some place anyone wants to be. Anyone should want anyone to be. And hopefully I pray that no one will actually see. That's just the humility in me as far as being human, although sometimes I can't stand people. Anyway, before we talk about rock bottom, and I'll offer some encouragement that there's possibilities outside of rock bottom and that you certainly don't need to stay and remain at rock bottom. And possibly, rock bottom is a tremendous teacher of life and possibly a launch and a springboard forward. Let me tell you, and let me get into the difference between rock bottom and life. If you're complaining, if you're struggling, if you're trying to make something out of something, if you're looking to do anything with your life in a way that seems somewhat arduous or difficult, and it leaves you in a state where there's so much to complain about because of all the things that come with trying to do something, you're not at rock bottom. You're just complaining and struggling, and you haven't figured out that you just got to keep doing the work. So there's that for that. I feel like I had to go on a mini rant about what rock bottom isn't. And the reason I felt so strongly about touching on that very briefly is that rock bottom is no joke. It really isn't a joke. You shouldn't want to be at rock bottom. You shouldn't want to experience rock bottom. You shouldn't play pretend like you're at the bottom of that rock. It's not cool. It's not anything again that I would wish on anyone, even the worst of enemies, as the cliche would go. And so let me get into what I believe rock bottom is. First and foremost, the desire to stack problems against problems and compare your problems to any other problems in an effort to show that your rock bottom is deeper than somebody else's rock bottom is not rock bottom either. Shit happens to all of us. And regardless of whose shit stacks higher, it still smells the same way. Rock bottom can occur for a multitude of reasons and circumstances. And the reality to rock bottom, it certainly feels like this sort of calamity that occurs suddenly and singularly, as if a specific moment dropped you into rock bottom. Whether it's breaking off a relationship, any relationship, whether it's the most intimate or maybe it's specific to family, some sort of discourse, maybe you lose a job, maybe you lose some money, maybe all of it happens simultaneously or in some way. But certainly there is a singular event that is sensationally catastrophic that reveals rock bottom to you. But the reality to rock bottom is that this has been stacking over time. And you either have neglected it or ignored it out of ignorance, or you just weren't aware, or just life just happens that way, and we just operate that way where things are happening, we ignore it, and all of a sudden, boom, you're at rock bottom. So there's also that. I'm not here to say that the way I reach rock bottom is the right way to reach rock bottom, or that your way to reach rock bottom is the right way, or that there's a difference in your rock bottom is better and stronger and harder. It's rock bottom. So here's how you know when you're at the bottom of that rock. I was watching just to make it relatable in a sense, I was watching a movie with my son the other day. It was a scary movie, Smile 2, Smile 2. And it was intense from kickoff to end. And at some point right in the middle of the movie, as just the events, the singular events that continued to occur made it more and more, or you just kept getting, revealed to scary. My son looked at me and said, "Yo, I'm at the point where I'm so scared, I don't even know how to, or I can't even react to the fear anymore. It's just in me. I'm all the way scared. I can't be any more scared than I am right now." And so rock bottom which is why I reference it's not a singular event, is the culmination of many different events that have occurred that are so painful, that are so arduous, that have pushed you so hard and so far down that you almost can't feel any more pain. You're in this space where essentially and effectively it's like you've just been blindfolded, dropped into the back of a van. I don't know why I got to be a van, but that's very typical for how this works. And and someone rolled you out the back of the van. They didn't tie your hands; they just left you with a blindfold. And you take the blindfold off, and it's pitch black. It is pitch black. You can't see. So you sort of look around, you start to make a move in a direction, and you might bang your head against something like a little string. You reach up, you grab the string, you realize you pull the string, it's a light, and boom. When you pull the light on, after having been dropped off into darkness, you look around, and the light is as bright as like you turn the sun on. It's not that you can't see, you can see. You can see deeply in all directions. I can see as far as I can see if I look forward. I can see as far as I can see as my eyes would allow if I turn around, left, right. Doesn't matter what direction I look in. I can see. This is rock bottom. What you see when the light gets turned on is there is nothing. There's nothing. There's nobody. It is absolutely, positively, unequivocally, undoubtedly, unambiguously just you. It is the absolute epitome of solitude, of loneliness, of everything that you thought was something. Certainly you realize at that moment it all meant nothing. No one is there for you. No one is coming to save you. It's just you. It is just you. And that is a dark, creepy, uneasy, and all too real feeling that occurs once you're at the bottom, because there is nobody. There is nobody but you. And the events that will lead to this sort of calamity and the idea that you are now at the bottom of the rock is that no one really can help you. And the people you had around you, and this is how there's a delineation. People who have the right foundation built around them never really reach rock bottom because they never have to feel this way. The people who are around you when you're at rock bottom, they can't help you. They can barely help themselves. They were just in and around your space and your environment as reinforcement to what your environment was. Right, wrong, or indifferent. They're no better, no worse. It's just that when you're at the bottom there and they see you, it's like, oof, you're just forgotten because they can't help you. They can't help you. You can't help them. There's nothing in the relationship that offers any kind of foundational support. So it's not personal. This is rock bottom. This is rock bottom. It is only you. And because it's only you, and because whatever has gotten you there has been pain on top of pain on top of pain, there is no more pain to feel. There is no more pain to feel. And you're not immune to it. Things can still happen. It can still start to pile on. But at that point, it's like, just like my son was in the movie, there's no more jump scares left. Like something could pop out, you're not going to jump. It's like, okay, I'm at the bottom. I'm all the way at the bottom. There's nothing else. No one's coming to save you. It's just you. So what is the point of all this? Outside of realizing that some of us are in a space that we shouldn't be and we certainly want out. Hope. Hope. Again, from a humane level, from just a person to person, man to man, man to human, whomever and however you identify, there is certainly hope. There's certainly hope. And when I reached my rock bottom, when I came to the realization that it was just me, I took it for what it was. Like I said, it wasn't personal. It Some personal things might have occurred, some events might have happened that involved others, and certainly they had a hand in pushing me towards the bottom. But I got myself there. That's sort of one of the realizations. Like I'm here. It's just me. In some way, somehow, I had a hand in it. If only because, or if at minimum because I should have saw it that these things were occurring and it was inevitable. It really was inevitable. That's another painful thing about rock bottom is if you look at it and you can identify it early enough. Sometimes you can prevent it, but a lot of times it's just too late. It's inevitable because again, it's compounding. In any event, once there, it becomes a situation. If you could envision too, all right, cool. I'm at rock bottom. I'm at the bottom of the rock, if you would. I'm not strong enough to lift that rock up off me and reach whatever levels I need to reach. So there's a lot of realization around I'm here because I brought myself here and I'm just not strong enough to get myself out. There's a level of desperation and despair that kicks in. There's a level of futility that starts to emanate kind of in your soul and takes over you. And a lot of confusion, a lot of doubt, uncertainty, all those things that occur that you would surmise and expect to occur when you're here. But that's also an advantage for you. That's also an advantage for you in this way. Once you identify you're here and you're not strong enough, you just got to set some level of baseline expectations around I'm I'm able to take a risk because really, why would I take a risk? But I also don't want to take a risk that's going to close rock bottom for me because you could do something real stupid and then it's just like you made a bad decision, there's no coming back from. You don't want one of those things. And if you're not smart enough to decipher what that means, I'm not for you. Anyway, so you start to look at how can I take some risks? What's available to me? Where can I go to help support me and raise my level just a little bit, just enough to get out of rock bottom? And whatever that is for you, I decided and chose that having been raised in the streets, there were certain things I was not going to do that was street related. I just wasn't. It wasn't for me, and I knew that it was a short term effort with little to no gain. Really, when you put it in perspective, I saw it enough. I wasn't going to do that. Also, as I mentioned, when you realize you're by yourself, you had all these relationships, all these people. It's not that they meant nothing; they can't help you, but you still need people in some way. So understanding the streets, I kind of said to myself, all right, I got to get my ear to the streets. I got to start to network and understand where's there a lane that can open up for me that can start to move me out the bottom, right? I mean, a lot of this seems quite logical. However, back to what I was talking about when you start to feel the futility of this, it can push you down where, as I referenced, you can't get it can't get any more painful the way my son couldn't get any more scared. But that could force you to just stop. You don't want to stop. Certainly. Stopping's not the answer. And so you take risks. You put your ear to the streets. You listen to see who's doing what where. What's available to me? I knew I didn't want the streets. Having been raised in government assistance, I didn't want any of that because I didn't want to get an apartment somewhere in the projects. I didn't want any of the handouts. And I'm not knocking or judging anybody. I'm just telling you, when I was in this space, I certainly knew what I didn't want and what I wanted. I wanted out entirely. I wanted exposure to a different environment. I knew for a fact what I did not want, and I use that as leverage. If I don't want to do these three things here, then effectively, because as I learned, life is law of polarities, you would think of it as the opposite. So if I'm not going to do these three things, what will be the opposite, right? If all of this would be handouts that would be given to me, well, all these other things I think I want, I gotta work a different way for it, and I gotta work for it in a way that I need a certain type of skill set, I need a certain type of exposure, and that's really what started my elevation out of rock bottom. It was the understanding that I was going to expose myself to risk, calculated risk that made sense for where I wanted to be. I knew what type of environment I wanted to be in. I knew what type of lifestyle I wanted to lead. I knew I wanted to get into a professional space. I knew I wanted to work. I was willing to grind. I was willing to apply all the logic that would allow me to be successful in a direction that would offer success, right? You look at, if I get into an office environment and I work this kind of job, I know a lot of us knock it today. A lot of us don't want to do it. They see it as the trap. But there's offerings to it. You get a paycheck, you get a consistent paycheck, you get benefits, you can support yourself. That for me was the baseline out of rock bottom. How do I begin to support myself? If I wasn't strong enough to avoid it and I'm not strong enough to push right out, how do I build the strength to get myself out? How do I find what I need to find? I got to go look, right? I got to go look. So understanding this and using these components allowed me to catapult forward. It takes time. It takes time. Be patient. And the last thing I'll say around what I use for support and taking all this, the solitude, the loneliness, the being kind of sort of backed up into a corner, the risks, the exposure, the ear to the streets. The last thing I needed that I didn't realize, and I probably couldn't wrap into words in the moment that I can understand now, all these years later, is you have to have faith in yourself. That's really what rock bottom amounts to too. It's very easy to somehow, as you're being isolated, as it feels so individualized that you feel like it's against you. It's not really that it's against you. Nothing is really against you. And I believe in a lot of the principles. Life just works in a way, you're in this situation already. There's a lot I could tell you about how you might wind up in this situation, but you're there. Do you really want to debate again about what it means, how it meant, and what could have been? It doesn't matter. You're there. So do you have the faith to build yourself up and build yourself forward? That's a lot of it. Do you believe? Can you believe? Well, you won't believe until you find a reason to believe. You got to give yourself a reason to believe. You got to see it for yourself in the way that only you can see it, because only you can do it. Only you can do it. There's no amount of prayer, there's no amount of relationships or things or material that's going to do it for you. You can only do it for yourself. And that's the beauty of rock bottom. Because it's only you can bring yourself out. But you got to believe. You got to have faith. And faith can be built. Faith can be crafted. Faith can be sharpened. It's just a matter of, are you willing to go and move towards the direction of faith by taking the risks, keeping your ear to the streets, networking, knowing where you want to go, knowing that it takes sacrifice, put in the amount of work that is required, whatever the amount of work is. And that within itself will give you the faith to know, I'm already at the rock. I'm already at the bottom of the rock. Pain is inevitable. Why not use it to move forward? Change your mind, change your life. I am who I say I am. Do you and stay rich.